I'm Matthew Sanchez, and my life's mission is to inspire you. I wanted to capture what it felt like to be a young lady and to struggle with low self esteem because there are a lot of young women out there today who are struggling with loving themselves. What I know for sure is the way through the challenge is to start the conversation about the challenge. So I've invited two phenomenal college educated young ladies to start the conversation about how they've struggled with low self esteem and what kind of advice they can give to somebody who may be struggling with low self esteem. So please let me welcome Olivia Jones and Faith Champion. Enjoy. I know both of you have struggled with low self-esteem. I know that. Where did it start, and what wounded you that gave you the conclusion that you were not good enough, or that you there was something about you that you didn't like?
Oh Lord. Okay, so when you said where did it come from, you mean the low self-esteem, correct?
Yeah, because something has had to happen to you to show you or to tell you that this is I don't like this about me, or I don't feel good enough. So what happened to you to show you the
When I changed high schools, I'll say that. Yeah, when I changed high school, because I went to two different high schools. It wasn't anyway, that's besides the point. I think I realized like when you don't have friends or you don't know the people and you're kind of like on your own and having to learn, like you realize that the way people like you or perceive you is initially that first impression kind of thing. And I feel like the thing with first impressions is that your first impression isn't always your authentic self, if
yeah.
that makes sense. Because you have to, like, you don't want to come off as, oh, she's kind of weird, or you want to come off as, oh, that doesn't make any sense, or you're stupid, all that kind of stuff. I feel like between like changing high school or just in that high school phase, like learning more about who you are, who your friends are, and like getting into different groups and different clubs, you kind of realize like there are different things about you and different aspects about you that people will like or not like, or will take advantage of, or will, say they like, but, could be lying to this kind of thing. And that's where I feel like I realized the most that my self esteem was kind of a thing that I struggled with.
So you're saying that you realized that you had low self-esteem when you were around a group of people.
Yeah, definitely so. Especially a group of people I didn't know, but you knew there was like a strong friend base there to
Gotcha,
begin with.
gotcha, gotcha. So Faith, what about you? When did you realize you had just attracted this low self-esteem about you that just came from nowhere? What happened to you? Or what did you experience?
I don't know. It's weird because in our generation, that's when social media started to become something. And I would say maybe 10 or 11 when I actually figured out like how to get on social media, Facebook in particular. So I think in a large span, for me, social media really played a part. I would say social media and interactions with others.
Yeah. I'm guessing. So this is the problem. This is the problem I see, and it's more common. And you can tell a lot of young girls who have low self esteem. The problem I see is that they use social media as a container for their validation, meaning
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they use social media in that way. So they have to post these certain pictures and look this certain way and pose this certain way so that a boy or somebody will say, "Oh, look at her, she looks good." Right? And
Yeah.
then they'll get a like, and that gives them some kind of validation. So why do
Mhm.
you think social media is that way? Like, do you believe that it was built for that, or why do you think girls do that?
For one, I'm not sure why social media has taken a turn to this. I definitely don't believe it was made to be like that, but I know that the way society is, it's groomed it to be like that, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I definitely can agree that with like likes or even comments can give someone a sense of, okay, validation that, maybe they look good or people like them. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess to go off what you said, I know someone told me that Facebook in particular, when Facebook came around, Facebook wasn't even social media as we know it to be now. it was a form of communication between students of a particular school. And then as it grew and evolved, it went out to other schools and you got to interact with other people from different schools and all that kind of stuff. And it became, what we know it to be now. And so I feel like in that, the more people that can see you or look at you or know your name even, or whatever, you put out there, is out for people to judge and to look at and to ridicule. I feel like with no consequences, because like they're not there physically, so they kind of feel like they can say any and anything, any and everything, and be like, well, it doesn't hurt me or affect me, but it's hurting and affecting that person in ways you don't even understand or know.
I never really got caught up in feeling like I had to maybe pose a certain way or do certain things. I just found it hard to understand like why it kind of made me feel like I wasn't good enough because I was being myself. I wasn't seeking likes, but it made me feel like, okay, well, I'm just doing what I would normally do or just being myself and I'm not getting that. So it started to mess with used to mess with like how I would think about myself. I would think, okay, well, maybe I don't look as pretty as I thought I did, or maybe what I'm doing is considered weird, or maybe no one understands what I'm doing, or, I don't know. It just made me kind of feel like being myself wasn't okay, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So how bad did it get for you girls? Like how bad did it get? Like I know some girls who have it really bad where they don't even they can't even look at themselves in the mirror. So how bad did it get for you?
I think for me personally, it's more of a matter of like, it kind of happens in phases or in waves kind of thing. Like there'll be some points where I'm just like, okay, I'm not worried about whatever, is going on outside of this world or outside of my world kind of thing. But then there are also phases and times where I'm like, dang, maybe I need to, stop being so lazy, be more productive, or like, just trying to do better, because just from looking and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, like you always are like, dang, they seem like they have a good life, or they seem like they got it made, or they seem like they don't have the same issues, like, or because they have these things, they don't go through what I'm going through or have to struggle like I'm struggling kind of thing. And so for me, it's kind of in waves kind of thing. Because I mean, it still happens from time to time, but I feel like with every time, just making sure you realize that, you're stronger than this. Like whatever you see on social media is already filtered from the beginning. And so you can't live a filtered life if you're just living in real life. And so you learn to be more empowered, and you learn to, follow and look for people that are going to encourage you more and stuff like that.
From, like I said, from when I first started getting on social media up until maybe 17, I never truly paid too much attention to it. But when I got to college and it was something that was more in my face, where I realized I wasn't doing the same things everyone else was doing. So it kind of messed with me then. It really hit me hard in 2019, my sophomore year. It hit me hard to the point where I actually like deleted my account because my college experience wasn't what I believed was a college experience, or at least what everyone made it seem it was supposed to be like. So I would see my peers doing things like joining clubs, having a lot of friends, going out, and it would just make me feel like I wasn't experiencing what I was supposed to be experiencing. It took a very big toll on me. It actually, not only did I like delete my social media, I end up in my mind telling myself I didn't have anyone, I didn't have any friends, and it got bad.
Wow. So what did you do with that, Faye? Like, what did you do with those feelings? Because you're at college, and if you're feeling like you don't have any friends, you're not really reaching out to people, I'm assuming. So what did you do with those feelings?
The only thing for me that I actually had to do was take a reflection and realize that everyone's experience is not the same. And just learning how to go about my experience and not focusing on what others have going on or whatever they are posting, whatever they are actually choosing to share with people. And another thing, sort of like what Olivia said, how, when people post things, it's already kind of filtered. People only show you what they want you to see. So no one ever really shows you what they have going on behind the scenes. So I also had to like take that in consideration and realize that, everyone is different. Everyone's process is different, and whatever is for someone else isn't always for you. You just got to find your own way. And be able to accept it.
Wow.
And that will get you. That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Tell me why is that hard for you, Olivia, to accept it?
I feel like no one ever wants to accept that life is hard or like they're struggling or any kind of thing. But even in the fact of like admitting it to yourself, but also admitting it to other people that are around you or that care about you and, support you and that kind of thing. Cause then I feel like in my experience, sometimes I felt kind of silly because I think with low self esteem or just any kind of like mental drainage or mental setback, sometimes the things that we feel may not always seem the most logical to someone else when you're explaining it, or it may not seem as serious when you're explaining it. And so sometimes that even in that, it's just like when you say it, it's just like, wow, was I overreacting really, or was I just not trying hard enough, all that kind of stuff. But it's not. I feel like that's not the case. I feel like we all have whatever roadblocks, and those things are still valid regardless of how silly it may sound to us or how it may make us feel after admitting it. At least we got it out, and now we have people that can be there to support us and help us grow from that, and kind of keep us in check when we feel like we're going down that path again.
Why do you think it's so hard for young women today? Why do you think it's so hard for them to love themselves? Besides social media, what do you think the problem is?
Oh, I mean, it could be a number of factors. It could be the way we are raised. It can be, I know you said besides social media, but even societal standards of like what a girl should be and how a girl should act kind of thing all plays a role in those kinds of things. And these all develop like at early ages.
I definitely agree with the way you're raised. I do believe that has a big part in society and just family in an extent. It's just the people you primarily encounter the most or during the vital time, like years of your life, that can actually shape the way you may see yourself or how you expect others to see you or how you want others to see you.
How do young girls know that they are valuable? How do they know that? And where will they get it from? If their families is already giving them those kind of societies, what society says, they're already giving them that kind of garbage, then where they get it from and how do they get it? Let me tell you something. What will happen is what I've seen. What will happen is that a young girl who doesn't love herself, right, she will fall for any boy or anybody who loves her, right, who says they love her and says that she's beautiful and all that and don't really mean it. And that's the wrong person. So where do they get it from?
Is no one solution. It's definitely going to be a process. It's going to be something that takes time and requires patience and requires, self-reflection and just time, but also requires a great support group because I mean, like like you were saying, Faith, like those first few years are so vital to the person that you become, and you can't just very easily go back and change those things. Because, like, I personally, have things that I always am looking back on or like self-conscious about, but that's how I've always been, and so trying to change them hasn't been easy, and it's still something that I have to constantly, remember to think about. Like, hey, it's not really like this. It's just how you've been wired to think about these things. And so just having people that are going to be there to support you, but also just being always supportive of each other.
I definitely agree with the reflection because you have to know exactly, you have to be able to look at yourself and see what it is that is causing you to feel unhappy or causing you to feel any negative feeling. And you have to be able to figure out how to go about it. Like Olivia said, support is very necessary. And sometimes it starts with trying to support yourself in order to get like the understanding and the want to support others, and the same thing with trying to love yourself and knowing that your love and as well as God's love is enough and you should spread it. Yeah.
I do thank both of you for having the conversation because the conversation is not easy to have, and there are some people and some young girls who are scared to have the conversation about self-love and low self-esteem. So the fact that you guys were brave enough to have the conversation means a lot to me, and I hope that this inspires somebody. So thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.